Professor Dr. Namrata Sharma, who is the Honorary General Secretary of AIOS and an academician par excellence with thousands of national and international presentations and publications, and has authored several books and won quite a few awards, will be speaking on the latest armaments in the management of corneal ulcer.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. At the outset, I would like to thank Kerala State Ophthalmic Society for making me a part of this important instruction course. It's always a pleasure and honor to be a part of this platform, and I would particularly want to acknowledge Dr. Srini for making me a part of this important course. I would be talking to you about latest armaments in the management of corneal ulcer, and there are no financial disclosures. And the latest armaments can be in the field of diagnostics, such as microbiology, imaging techniques, and therapeutics, such as newer drugs, newer methods of drug delivery, collagen cross-linking, and also use of adjuvants such as Tennant's patchcraft. Apart from the routine history taking and slit lamp evaluation, we do spectral domain anterior segment OCT is an important tool to monitor, diagnose, and follow up cases of microbial keratitis, especially posterior corneal abscesses, which may become difficult to monitor on slit lamp. Now, microbiology has undergone a sea change in the form of next generation sequencing and matrix assisted laser desorption and ionization, or MALDI, which is available to us now, apart from the routine staining that we did with gram stain, KOH, and for acid-fast bacilli, as well as cultures such as blood agar, dextrose agar, and other media. So next genome sequencing picks up the pathogens which have not grown on the culture media. It determines the DNA sequence. The sequence of the gene is obtained and is matched with the software which contains the sequence of the various pathogens. And then pathogen identification, resistance, and virulence is obtained. MALDI is matrix-assisted laser desorption or ionization. So the sample culture is taken, is mixed with the matrix, and this is then metal plate is then introduced in the mass spectrometer, and it is bombarded with the various laser pulses. So there are dissolved and ionized molecules which travel up at a particular speed, and depending upon the travel of the speed, you do obtain various peaks on the graphs, and these are actually nothing but the signatures of the various microorganisms. Adenoviral keratoconjunctivitis, such as shown here, can be very difficult to treat, and you can have nuvular opacity, such as here in the center, which can scar. For detection of this, we have now rapid adeno detector, which is rapid antigen detection immunoassay, which detects 53 serotypes. The sensitivity is 88%, specificity 91%, and this is much faster and better than the PCR, which picks up the dead virus. Strongest steroid should be used for adenoviral keratoconjunctivitis. Topical povidone iodine with steroid is also shown to be extremely useful. And in recurrences, topical cyclosporin or topical tacrolimus can be tried. Topical HU-IFN beta is the new molecule for adenoviral keratoconjunctivitis, only tried anecdotally. In herpes keratitis, you can have epithelial herpes keratitis, stromal, necrotizing, or it can be double immune ring of Wesley. And this is the classical treatment, topical acyclovir, which is given 5 times for 1 week and then 3 times for 21 days. For epithelial and stromal, you add pred after 1 week, and for necrotizing and non-necrotizing stromal herpes keratitis, systemic acyclovir 400 milligram 5 times a day is added for about 3 weeks. Now, apart from topical acyclovir, topical ganciclovir 0.15% can be given. It is less toxic, better tolerated, safer, and can be also given in cases which are resistant to acyclovir. And oral valcyclovir can be given instead of oral acyclovir, because 500 milligrams of valcyclovir once a day is as effective as 400 milligram of acyclovir twice a day, and so the compliance gets better because the dosing is decreased. Likewise, oral ganciclovir can also be given, especially in cases of CMV endothelitis. The dose is 1000 milligram 3 times a day for 8 weeks, and that is equivalent to oral acyclovir 400 milligram 5 times a day. For varicella zoster, oral acyclovir 800 milligram 5 times a day should be given to 10 to 14 days. But the new thing that is there is the live vaccine. Zostavax, which is used in more than 60 years of age. It decreases the incidence of zoster by half. The post-herpetic neuralgia decreases by 66%, and the duration of protection is for 4 years. For CMV endothelitis, again, it should be diagnosed more frequently. We often miss it, but it responds to systemic and topical ganciclovir with the use of topical steroids. As far as the bacterial keratitis is concerned, we continue to give fluoroquinolones. The new kid on the block is levofloxacin 1.5%, and we are doing a RCT to see whether it compares favorably with the combination therapy or not. These are our previous 2 studies with moxiflox and gateplox vis-a-vis combination therapy. And of course, specific antibiotics has to be given for specific organisms, and we are all aware of this in various situations that it has to be given. Resistance, both topically and systemically, is rising exponentially in the recent years. And our study has clearly shown that with the fluoroquinolones, there is almost resistance in about 33% of the cases. So what we need to look at is new combination and formulations and increased use of antibiotics, which we were not using earlier. So linezolid, colistin, imipenem have been tried in anecdotal reports. So this is a case which is tried with topical colistin, then with piperacillin and tazobactam for Pseudomonas keratitis. And how do you prevent resistance? So you use a very low dose or too short duration of antimicrobial usage would increase the antimicrobial resistance. So use the right antibiotics, do rapid tests, so use them quickly. And do not taper the antibiotics, but stop at the therapeutic dose. Now, coming to fungal keratitis, ConfoScan is an important tool for diagnosis of fungal hyphae, apart from the Acanthamoeba cysts and the trophozoites. And natamycin continues to be the drug of choice for these cases. You can add systemic drug if the ulcer is large. And between oral voriconazole and ketoconazole in a RCT, we found that voriconazole was better in terms of serum concentration and tear film concentration. And we also have evaluated the role of intracameral and intracorneal agents. These are cases to show the same. And this is again case series of intrastromal voriconazole. Now, based on this publication, which is shown here, as well as all our studies that we have done, we arrived at topical, systemic, and targeted therapy protocol, which was again done in a prospective study. So when the ulcer size is small and the depth is also less, topical natamycin can be given. If there is no response, one can add topical voriconazole. But if the ulcer size is large and the depth is more, then you have to give topical natamycin with systemic antifungal agents. Add topical voriconazole, and if after 4 weeks there is no response, add intracameral or intrastromal or both. We've also worked at water-soluble natamycin, which is going to be available with the Microvision very soon, and it's a clear solution when you compare it with natamycin 5% suspension with pharmacokinetics, which show higher peak concentrations, and it remains for a prolonged period of time as well. And we have now evaluated it in the various clinical studies as well and intrastromally. So this is intrastromal natamycin, which is soluble, gives good results. And this is yet another case with intrastromal natamycin. This is a case with intrastromal voriconazole. And we evaluated all the 3 injections, the intrastromal voriconazole, the natamycin, as well as amphotericin B. And we found that intrastromal natamycin was the best, and there was vascularization with amphotericin B. Other formulations in antifungals could be in the form of liposomes, drug-loaded polymeric missiles and nanoparticles, and of course the efficacy of this needs to be established. Now, coming to Acanthamoeba keratitis, we continue to give bioguanides like PHMB and propomidine in combination therapy, but collagen cross-linking does have a role in cases of Acanthamoeba keratitis, as is shown here. And oral miltefosine is again, which has been tried in refractory cases of Acanthamoeba keratitis, and it responds to therapy. We've also been taken aback by the newer organisms that we have discovered. For instance, in this case of fungal keratitis with hyphae, which showed corneal thinning and guttering as well. And the patient also had bacteria, so was started on topical antibiotics as well as topical antifungals. But the patient had endophthalmitis, panophthalmitis, exenteration, and finally, when the blast search was done with the NCBI database, it turned out to be Pythium insidiosum. So these are the newer organisms which we discover based on the nucleotide sequencing, and this is its advantage. Now, whenever there's a perforation, you can glue it, such as here, but we've also looked at the role of Tenon's patch graft, especially in sterile melts. The advantage of this Tenon's patch graft is that it is not expensive at all. It is autologous. You don't have to prepare it from anywhere. You don't have to procure it like a case of amniotic membrane. And there are no rejections because it's the patient's own tissue. This can be sutured if it is a large perforation, or it can be glued onto the site of the perforation. Once this is done, then the anterior chamber forms quite well after you put the air bubble there, and also the results are very good. And this was especially useful in the COVID era when there was a paucity of any type of donor tissue, and so it helped to seal perforations in such cases. Now, PAC collagen cross-linking, or PAC-CXL, again has been used for microbial keratitis, but the results are awaited. There are no large-term studies which have proven its efficacy, and we require larger number of patients with more studies. There is another alternative to riboflavin, and that is rose bengal. And so RBP that can also be done, rose bengal photodynamic antimicrobial therapy. And again, we do not have too many studies, and we need to evaluate this further. Now, as far as keratoplasty is concerned, you can do DALF or you can do therapeutic keratoplasty. And the latest is the collagen cross-linked therapeutic grafts in cases of fungal keratitis. So the donor corneas are cross-linked and then they are sutured. Wonderful work which is done by Dr. Anjana Karunakaran, who's from Kerala in RP Center, and this work was published in Ophthalmology. There can be recurrence even after therapeutic PK, so you may require multi-prong attack, more than one modality to treat these cases of microbial keratitis. So it is now time to rewind, reevaluate, and redefine our approach because there is drug resistance, because there are not many newer drugs which have been tried, and because visual outcomes are not only dependent upon the bugs or upon the microbes, but also dependent on the fact that there is inflammation apart from infection, and that needs to be controlled. And of course, you require regular audit of ulcer cases and redefinition of protocols from time to time. So thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you, madam, for that great presentation.